Beautiful, divine masculine and feminine darlings. This is the Seraphim Gem Gypsy, SeraFae Indigo Empress, and Shiloh Horizon. I don't plan to be here for too long. But I do have a little reading to share. I'm also going to make some tea. Feel free to join me. So, first and foremost, I hear The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. You gotta know when to hold 'em. And know when to fold them. And know when to walk away. You better never count your money while you're sitting at the table. You alright, buddy? You need some more? I saw that. It's okay. You better never count your money while you're sitting at the table. 'Cause there'll be time for the counting and the dealing is done. Oh, I love that. Would you like a little more? Could you, baby? You're angry. I was going to ask, why are you so angry to this karmic? But they responded before I could finish or get it out loud. Because I thought I would get away with it. You're going to get away with it. And what they're talking about is they thought that they would get away with targeting somebody and possibly trying to scapegoat the blame or their crimes onto someone else. And they are saying that the victim they were targeting is going to get away with it. And what they mean by it is the victim is going to get away with this setup, right? You're going to get away with it. But the problem with that statement is this person didn't do anything. There's nothing for the victim to get away with because they didn't do anything wrong. They're getting away from the karmic who tried to put false blame on them, but yeah, there's a difference. We're getting away from the setup, if you want to call the setup the it, but what that was them trying to scapegoat their blame. What that was spiritually was them trying to put their karma on someone else, and that's not how that works. Like, let's say criminals facing jail time. They're in their delusional mind, they think if they can try to falsely entrap and set someone else up, even under fabricated evidence or false claims, then if that person who's being falsely accused goes to jail, then that person thinks that they've destiny swapped with the victim, and then they won't be in trouble, that their karma will be cleared. But that is not how that works. If you have an innocent person set up, if you have somebody falsely entrapped, that's bad karma on you. That's delusional. That's not how that works. They will get out and they will get greater blessings and they will get to turn their life around because that's who they are. But you will go to jail, at least, at minimum, for what you did in the first place, and then whatever setup attempts that you tried to spin to cover it up, to dodge accountability. That's not how that works. Whether spiritually speaking or on the human plane, if you need an analogy from either, I have both, but you're wrong on either one. Okay? So there's that. Your energy's pretty foul. While I'm here, just quickly show you this. Because I did finish last night. I'm turning the light on though, so watch your eyes, it'll be bright. They're very angry. It's funny. Look at the inside of this case. No two trees are alike. This is yours and yours alone. Grow tall, stand tall amongst the stars. And the thing about that is that I was just getting a download earlier. Oh, that's right. I did get a couple of them, didn't I? And my daughter is named after a tree, but my last name is a flower. So she's my little tree flower. I also got a download about, let me turn this off for a second, about somebody was speaking about a karmic male and how they were attacking. And they said something about, it was referencing me actually, and the dislocated bones from domestic abuse and the ongoing attacks. And the reference point was that he mangled her. That's what somebody was saying about the person who chose to do this. He mangled her body. And then there was a reference also that came from that on the plagiarizer energies, because while it was domestic abuse and the ongoing stuff, the attacks towards my child that caused these injuries, right, having to sit in court for 8 hours a day instead of being able to get to medical appointments and, you know, freezing cold courtroom, trying not to curl up in the fetal position when I should be able to get medical care for the injuries that were being caused, or should have been able to do so, instead of having to try to defend myself while in the process of that generating or acquiring more injuries, because that whole situation was injurious. That's what caused them. But then when I had to deal with the toxic copycat plagiarism energies more recently, I actually had to spend money to protect myself and my business to do that. So I had to stop investing in my medical care to deal with these thieves. And that's the financial damage that they're also going to have to pay. I'm coming to collect. 919. Thank you very much. And that was a temporary thing. It's a fully regeneratable situation, and in a multitude of ways, physically and otherwise, right? Temporary setback, but they're going to pay for it in the long run. And frankly, what they intended for it to be didn't play out. It's already being addressed. It's already been addressed. The last of it's in the process of being finalized and handled. So they didn't stop anything. They got themselves more charges and in more trouble legally for trying, though. As I warned them they would. When they didn't listen. Because they don't like to listen. They just try to convince everybody they're right when they're wrong. Dunning-Kruger. Turning the light on, watch your eyes. Just breathe. Crystal ball. The little crown at the tip. And then this one. Castle with a moth on the side. Mr. Tony Soames. I don't know if that's registering well. The moon and the stars behind a fence. The moth flying over the fence. The way the moth is bigger, it's closer, as if it were a camera, right? So let's say somebody was standing in front of the house with a camera in front of the fence. If the moth was closest to them, the moth would be the biggest, comparatively speaking, in range of depth. The house would be set back behind it, so it would be, it's a bigger house, but it's why the moth is so big, comparatively speaking. And then the moon is way up in the sky. It still sits behind the house, but because it's so high up in the sky, it's smallest, so far back. So there's a triple range of depth in this one. I thought that was pretty cool. I like it. That's all that matters. This one. Bells. Rose from Beauty and the Beast. Oh, that's not picking up very well, though. I don't know why that's not wanting to register well. Sometimes a plain white background helps. See? It's just less to focus on, I think, for the camera. So that was that one. Then there's the seashells, ammonite seashells. It's like a coral reef. And the ammonite seashell is one that I use pretty commonly here. It's a twin flame shell. It symbolizes the sequences, the cycles of karma that spiral around. And how it always comes back. Then you've got, this was an ancestral, that's why. Ancestral shout out. Dragonfly dagger. My auntie Kim really liked dragonflies. She passed away a couple of years ago. Before her mom, before my grandma. Then you've got my little mushrooms with the sun and the moon. Yes, no. Another lesson on consent. Right? And the message for the crystal ball is just breathe, relax. With the Empress, royal bloodline, hello. You hear my stomach, hey girl, you need to eat. Okay. I hear you, I'm coming. I wish words were like little toy guns. That's not registering well either. Pick up. I don't know why it's still not really picking up. It's the colors, I think. But the guns, these people caused conflict, and I turned their bullets into begonias. And then we've got the lotus blossom here. Stop moving. Maybe if I do that, sometimes this helps. There it is. I don't know why, but sometimes if I do that, you can see them a little better. This one has stars, birds flying into the stars. I heard that Divine Masculine said, I like that one. And then there's this last one over here. The bunny rabbits. Boxing bunnies, it almost looks like, but they're parallel beneath the moon. It doesn't matter that their worlds were seemingly turned upside down. We take that advice. Just breathe. So, that's that. And then these ones. Pick up. There you go. Emotional flow. I mentioned that yesterday. If you feel like you need to cry or just process your emotions, let that go. There's a karmic who's mad that I told them I wish that the karma that they were, the damages that they were trying to inflict on others or allow others to pass off on others came back around on them. Specifically, I called out Judge Harrigan yesterday, and I said this is the thing they're mad about. Crooked Harrigan, and I said, look, you have committed crimes and worked with criminals and violated your duties as a judge and not only created trauma victims, but allowed prior survivors to be re-traumatized and re-victimized, not only in general, but on worse levels, okay? You exposed women and children to sexual assault, sir. So that karma's going to bend you over like the devil has been fucking you up the ass. They're going to have a field day with you in prison, I said. No, do I wish harm on people? No. Do I wish them their karma? Absolutely, and I stay right the fuck out of the way of it. 1919. He was willing to go around letting little girls be raped or helping people do it for money, for favors, for social status, maybe to get his dick sucked. No. You can sit there and hope the prisoners don't take a broom to you. The way that you let people go after my child. Motherfucker. Speaking of emotional flow, if it's anger, process it out. It's righteous indignation. I don't take very kindly to pedophilia. Got it? Cool. don't get me wrong. I've had some giggles today, and also some good emotional releases over the last week. Let it go. It's healing. If it's coming up, it's coming out. The sovereign, gentle power. Exactly. Right. I don't wish harm on people. I'm not going around hurting them. I'm not going around and, trying to take a broom to anybody or trying to set people up for harm. No. I'm just requiring them to take accountability, and I see very likely what's going to play out in there, because it very commonly does. When criminals like that, end up in prison, especially when they've got the label of lawyer or judge on them, they've got an extra target on their back. Why, somebody asks? Because all those inmates are in there because a lawyer put them there and or a judge put them there, and they're pretty pissed about it. So, yeah, I heard that. Oh, that makes more sense. Yep. And they don't like pedophiles or woman beaters. Those are the scum in there. Like, even in comparison, you think, well, they're all in prison together. Yeah, but the other prisoners look at the women beaters and the sexual assailants as like a monster breed. They don't even see themselves as the same class of creature. Okay? They might all be forced to share a residence, but that's it. Seek the counsel of the crystals. I've got court transcript, actually, where they were trying to trash talk crystals and all this stuff, and it's like crazy. Religious, spiritual persecution. On court docket. Take action. Yeah, sword of truth. I'm not going to go hurt Harrigan. But I know the universe wants to. Born innocent. Because he went after, watch your eyes, I'm turning the light on. Yeah, her dragon lady. He went after. High priestess, the empress. Right, I just heard Divine Masculine say, don't you know that was the dumbest thing you could have ever done? You thought the empress was alone? Sir, she rules the kingdom. She has a whole army at her behest. Joan of Arc. Soul scrying. Yep, and I just did that new moon breakdown last night in the reading. Wild, pure heart. Because they were targeting light workers. Somebody says, I like that softer energy. Oh, so do I. So do I. But I also have to address it as it is and call it for what it is. Let's turn the light back on. Call it for what it is. If it's sad energy, I channel it. If it's tension, then that's what it is. There's been some anxiety I've been picking up from the collective too. Often it's karmic. Divine union. There are divine unions coming through. And despite the fact that these people did not want to stop or listen. Oh, look, look, look. Okay, this is what I meant by the depth of this nail. Let me show you. See, you have the moth that's really big in the front of this house. But it's not a giant moth. It's a tiny moth. It's just really close to, like, imagine that you're standing in front of the moth and the house and the moon, but the moth is closest to your face. The moon is behind, the house is behind it, and the moon is behind that. The moth is bigger based on depth perception because it's closest to the camera or your eyes and that note. And so in this case, with this, the way I was trying to explain that is, let's say that these moths are the exact same size. It's the same kind of moth, and they're the same size, but because one of them is behind her and sitting back behind her shoulder, and one is sitting closer to the viewer and sitting on her chest, the one on her chest looks bigger, not because it is, just because it's closer to your eyesight. Like, look at my finger down here and then up here, right? It looks so tiny compared to this card way back here, or even down here. Look how small it looks and how big the card looks because my finger's way behind the card. But when I back them up and bring them here, my finger looks giant and the card looks tiny, doesn't it? Yeah, it's just depth perception, that's all. I heard that. And you put that in your nail? Yes. $25.22. Sacred silence. And I've been picking a message up also about those who can hear, those who hear us when we say nothing. The sovereign, it's divine masculine. The butterflies here, speaking of. And you know what? They're the same color as, as my finger. How funny is that? How perfect that color matches too. That's wild, dude. I think. Look at that color match. What? Okay. Let's see. Tell me what the trees have to say. Healing trees. Personality triangle. Personality, nature, and mindfulness. So there's a trinity effect here. The tree of life, map, support, connection. How everything connects, and also all of us that do connect, the vibe tribe. And then the hermit, spiritual guidance, commitment, and a way shower. My nail matches the cards too. Here. Temperance and art, self-sufficiency, boldness, devotion, right? Like how I can quickly channel that really tense energy. These nails match the cards too. But then also temper it back down. Now, yes, it's Aries season, but for me, that Aries is in a moon placement. And the moon sign is a water sign. So even though it's a fire sign, which I do really love that energy, I have a level of temperance on it that your average fire sign would not, certainly not so easily, because I have the awareness and self-control and the placement in a water sign. So the fire sign is in a water placement, and it softens it. It allows you to crank the heat when necessary, but also cool it back down for well-being, for safety, for benefit of self and others. I'm also getting a bit about how people work with metal or people work with glass. It's all about temperature. And glass workers, if things get too hot, they melt and they fall off whatever tools they're working with, and the project typically gets destroyed. It's ruined. If it gets too cold, especially too quickly, it can shatter. Also, kind of like somebody pouring hot water on a cold frozen car window. Don't do that, it will break your window. Or taking a glass cooking sheet out of a hot oven and then putting it in a sink that has cooler temperature water in it, it will crack and break. And I also picked up a reference of something about metal too. There's a reference of metal work needing to be done at specific temperatures, and it's all different depending on the blend, the type, the alloy, the desire, the design, the need for whatever it is. But there's that. Interesting. That's very interesting. There's a criminal who died a couple of years ago. Actually, somebody who had an affinity for younger girls. And his name was Sean Waltz. And in the process of my child being held hostage a number of years ago, he decided he was going to post pictures of her online, even though his Facebook name was Sean Fun in the Woods Waltz, because his fun in the woods it means that he likes to go do drugs and party in the woods. And years ago, when his child's mother kicked him out of her apartment for good reason, the same reasons, I was asked by somebody I was letting stay here if they could have this friend, Sean, stay here. And I let them, and as it turned out, they ended up using the computer and left some evidence of child pornography on it, and I immediately got rid of that person in the situation. However, all those years later, I still had the proof of what they had done, what evidence they left. So when photos of my child were posted by this pedophile in the process of her being held hostage from me, I posted all about this on Facebook, and then a day or two later, he was dead. Sean Waltz was dead. I either overdose or suicide. I would say probably overdose. Typically speaking, if somebody dies like of cancer or something like that, often that is written in their obituary. But if somebody dies of an overdose or suicide or something that's just really gruesome, often that's not listed. They try to focus more on the life of the person than any of that information, and often they'll glaze over it altogether just to keep it all out. And that happened in this case. So again, I would say probably either overdose or suicide, and I would say more than likely overdose. He had a huge addiction problem. One of the things he was addicted to was crack cocaine. So I actually have had literal crack addicts after me, unfortunately. These are people who go around stealing from people, stealing scrap metal and selling it for stuff, like that kind of a person. And whether it's cutting it out of somebody's house or is trying to steal it from somebody's property or junkyard or something. Either way, they were actually caught on camera doing this years ago. And I bring this up because, to my surprise, right, I keep all these energies out. I don't let anybody that's not for me come through. It's a divine agreement God and I have. And if anybody tries, I'm aware of who it is and what they're trying and what have you. I get the heads up. But this weirdo just came through. I don't trust him. I don't trust it. But it was almost like trying to offer up some information in a form of repentance. Like, hey, I'm sorry I got involved with what I shouldn't have got involved with. But yeah, that person who I helped target you or who I enabled in targeting you, yeah, they're not going to make it out of this. Yeah, that best friend that I had that asked you if I could stay at your house before I pulled that crap, and the person who I spent time with while they were abusing you, the person who has been helping hold your child hostage, yeah, well, they're not going to make it out of this. And it surprised me to hear that a second ago because, one, like, why are you coming near me? Two, that's not something you typically hear somebody's best friend say about them. That doesn't sound like somebody who's on the team of their best friend. Sounds like somebody who's flipping on their best friend. So what that says to me is that a karmic male doesn't even have spirit guides or anything on his side. Even the people that he knew when they were alive flipped on him. No, I don't want them on over here either after everything they did. But I could just pick that up. Balance, sacrifice, joy. Look at the child there. Told you. Innocence. Her freedom and innocence has brought this whole thing down. The birds. The white birds at that look. The birds. And the stars. The birds and the stars. Look! I knew there was symbology here. There's always a story. I can't make it up. I would say their mirror magic backfired too. Trying to doppelgang and copycat a divine feminine? No. Third eye is lit. Okay. Determination, communication, initiative. Yeah, so there's a sword of truth there. Looks like a lightsaber of truth with the scroll. And look, there's truth coming out, also possibly from children, or actually that looks like Hermes, who was a messenger. What is that? Is that a fox? What is that? Coyote? Dingo? It's in some kind of, I don't know, familial line like that. I would say more dog. Dingo, jackal, coyote, wolf. They're all in the same genus line, like they're cousins, basically. They're all in the same lineage, and there's a key here. It's like it's giving Aphrodite and Adonis, or even Isis and Osiris. Look at the lotus blossoms there. Yep, there it is. Egypt, Isis and Osiris. Picking up Selene too. You know, I actually have a Selene necklace here. And this one is really reminding me of Aphrodite and Adonis. And all I will speak into how only at the time is now. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming. Wild things they turning on. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Stay up there. Manifest being here and now, Earth. But look at this crowned ruler. She's either got, first glance, it looked like pot plants on her head. The second glance, it looked like crystals from back here. I think I was like, what is that? Phoenix in the background, bunny, new beginnings, also fertility, fresh starts. There's the mermaid. Yep, and also the hummingbird. The wind and the mountain. Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? It's giving Mother Earth energy. On her throne, crowned queen. Also pentacles, Queen of Pence, but it's giving Empress. Yeah, severity, might, discipline, karma, and they're getting karma, dude, for coming after Divine Feminine. They were reckless, and then also, on the flip side, they required Divine Feminine to wield her sword and stand in that passionate truth, the fiery truth, to defend herself and the innocent children. That's a bird of paradise, I believe. It kind of looks like a phoenix too. Guess it could be theoretically, but it does look like a bird of paradise. And there are those sunflowers. Like my nail set last week. Abyss, secrets, lessons yet to be realized. Yeah, see? See, Akashics, these people didn't want to learn their lesson. There's also a reference of unlocking the both sides of the duality here, the Gemini mind. And there is this dualistic energy here of like very free-flowing, open, creative energy, and then very observant, very analytical, calculated. And look at that. Those look like, it looked like an underwater scene at first. They looked like little fish or something. You see the ripples? It almost looks like water ripples here, but they're not. They're what? Mushrooms! And also, I was going to do them blue. I decided against it yesterday. Early this morning. Did green instead. Green and pink. Like a watermelon. It almost looks black. It's a very dark green, but nonetheless. And then also, it looked from a distance from back here. It's like, is that an underwater setting? This looked like a little tropical fish swimming by. You You can kind of see it like coral sticking out, maybe if you didn't know any better, right? Until you zoom in. But what it looked like to me was that one. Coral reef. Okay. Yep. Look. They're in trouble. Oh, and there's Isis. Told you. Actually, that looks like Maat, the scales of Maat. Meaning, if your heart is pure, then it should be level with a feather. If your heart is pure, then it shouldn't be heavy in regards to holding darkness. It shouldn't be full of evil, right? That weighs a lot. But if your heart is pure and light, look, this Libra sign, it's a Libra sign. That's my daughter. It should be level with the feather. If you put a karmic's heart in this, the feather would be way up here and the heart would be way down here. And this is also going into the reference of how the divine knows your heart. God knows your heart. You can't fool anybody. Not anybody that matters. Karma misses no deadlines, misses no beats. I don't believe in karma. Karma is God. I don't believe in God. Well, it's called quantum law in science. So either way you spin it, you're still wrong. And it knows you're real. And frankly, so is your karma. Look, blinded. They were blinded. And they did not care about the damages they were causing others or trying to cost others by toe stepping or trying to destiny swap or hurt people. Look at this phoenix. It's almost a bird of paradise. And then you've got the Isis wings here. Almost looks like a beetle. Isis wings with a beetle. And then like angel wings with a beetle inside. Also scarabs are Egyptian reference. And then there's this little pest, right? But it's already been swallowed by the bird. So that's done. Symbolizing those karmics. No, look, 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 look. There it is. You three-headed snake. There's the Scorpio sign. So there's the water energy. And then the death card came out. You know what? I've been picking this up. There was a reference of, like, it was towards me, but I may not be the only one who resonates. Blooming, being the rare flower that blooms in the dark, they have morning glories, you know, which look like these. They're beautiful, often blue flowers. They look like little bluebells almost. And they come out and they open up in the morning time when the sun comes out, but they have moonflowers. It's a version of this, but they do the opposite. They only open under the moonlight. They come out at night. I can relate to those too. Some days. One feather like a unicorn. But these cycles are ending, right? Their karma is coming back. The cycles are ending. This is death in one case. It's also a reference of the hermit on some level. But as far as this Celtic, you see there he is, the hermit. As far as the Celtic energy goes, it's like the wayfarer, or the, what is he called? Hold on. The ferryman, not the wayfarer. Yep, the ferryman. Close. As we get the answer, as I just looked up the answer to my question, look, duality, Gemini, Queen, hello, High Priestess, the moonflowers, love, silence, awareness, and the divine feminine. I'm going to drop the mic right there. Please remember to pray, do no harm, take no crap, and I'll catch you on the next one. Toodles.